Dr. Park had been working on Space Station 7 for 11 months. In all that time, she had learned one simple truth. They did not care if she lived or died. The station was a massive thing, floating in the darkness between stars. It was a place where 7 different alien species came to trade and do business. A peace treaty kept them from killing each other, but just barely. They were the ones who controlled most of the station. They were tall creatures, covered in scales that changed color with their mood. They had 4 arms and eyes that looked like black stones. Their culture was built on one idea: the strong take what they want, and the weak suffer. Was human. On this station, that meant she was nobody. She had come here as a volunteer for the Galactic Medical Corps. They needed doctors willing to work in dangerous places, and had always believed that healing should have no borders. She was 32 years old, small in height, with black hair she kept tied back and hands that never shook during surgery. Back on Earth, she had been one of the best trauma surgeons in Seoul. Out here, she was just another soft creature the looked down upon. Her clinic was in the worst part of the station. It sat on the lower decks, squeezed between a dirty cargo bay and the machines that cleaned the station's water. The walls were metal and always cold. The lights flickered sometimes. The air smelled like rust and recycled breath. But had made it her own. She had brought blankets in soft colors. She had put pictures on the walls. She had found a way to make the examination table less cold. Small things, but they mattered. When patients came through her door, she wanted them to feel like someone cared. And patients did come, all kinds of them. Miners came with hands crushed by heavy machinery. Traders came with infections they had ignored for too long. Refugees came with diseases that their home planets had never bothered to cure. Treated them all. She asked for payment when they could afford it. When they could not, she treated them anyway. This was how she met them. There were a species that looked like large cats. They stood on 2 legs and had thick fur that ranged from silver to deep gold. Their eyes were the color of amber, and their voices were low and rumbling, like distant thunder. They had once lived on a beautiful forest world, but a solar flare had destroyed it 3 generations ago. Now they wandered the galaxy as refugees, looking for a place that would accept them. A group of 47 had been stuck on 7 for 6 months. They could not afford passage to the colony worlds that might take them in. They tolerated them because they did the jobs no one else wanted, cleaning waste systems and hauling cargo in the dangerous parts of the station. They were paid almost nothing. They lived in a cramped section of the lower decks, sleeping in piles to stay warm. Among them were 12 cubs. The youngest was barely walking. The oldest was an adolescent named, with silver fur and eyes that watched everything. The cubs became most frequent patients. It started with a cough. One of the younger cubs, a golden-furred child named Bora, had developed a terrible cough that would not go away. Her mother had carried her to his clinic in desperation, expecting to be turned away. Had not turned them away. She had examined Bora carefully, diagnosed a respiratory infection caused by the station's bad air, and given her medicine. When the mother tried to offer payment, a small bag of dried food that was clearly part of their own rations had refused. "Keep it," she had said. "Your daughter needs to eat well to get better." The mother had stared at her like she was speaking a foreign language. After that, word spread through the den. The human doctor in the lower decks would treat their cubs. She would not demand payment they could not give. She would not report them to the for wasting station resources. One by one, the cubs came to her clinic. Malnutrition, parasites, broken bones from playing in cargo bays that were not meant for children, nightmares that left them screaming in the night. Treated their bodies, and when she could, she treated their spirits too. She learned their names. She learned their favorite foods. She let them play with the medical equipment that was safe to touch. The cubs started calling her Soft Paw because her hands were gentle when she examined them. Pretended to be annoyed by the nickname. Secretly, she loved it. Commander Vex noticed. Vex was the officer in charge of the lower decks. He was large even for his species, with scales the color of dried blood and a voice that sounded like grinding metal. He came to clinic one day and watched her treat a cub with a sprained ankle. "You waste resources on them," he said when the cub had limped away. Did not look up from cleaning her instruments. "I treat patients, that is my job. They are refugees. They contribute nothing. They will never contribute anything. Why spend medicine on creatures that do not matter?" Now looked at him. She was small and soft and human, and he was tall and scaled and powerful. She knew she should be afraid. She was not. "They are children," she said quietly. "That is contribution enough." Vex's scales flickered to a darker shade, a sign of annoyance. "You are foolish. Humans are always foolish. This is why your species will never matter in this galaxy." He left without another word. Went back to her work. She did not notice the small figure watching from the doorway. The silver-furred adolescent had heard everything. Her amber eyes stayed fixed on the spot where Vex had stood, and something cold and calculating moved behind them. That night called a meeting of all 12 cubs in the hidden space behind the water recyclers. It was their secret place, where the adults could not hear. "The human protected us," said. "She spoke back to a commander for us. Do you understand what that means?" The younger cubs did not understand. They were too young to know how the galaxy worked. But the older ones knew. They had seen what happened to those who stood up to the. They had seen the beatings, the disappearances, the bodies that were sometimes found in the waste systems. "She will get hurt," said a golden-furred cub who was almost as old as the "Do not forgive." "No," agreed, "they do not." "Then what do we do?" Was quiet for a long moment. Around her, the younger cubs were falling asleep in a warm pile, their breath slow and peaceful. These little ones had smiled for the first time in months because a human doctor had been kind to them. "We watch," said finally. "We learn, and when the time comes we pay our debt." The cubs did not fully understand what she meant, but they trusted. She was the oldest, the cleverest, the one who always found food when there was none to be found. If said they would pay their debt, then they would pay it. They just did not know yet how high the price would be. The trouble started 3 weeks later, on a day when the station's lights flickered more than usual, and the air tasted like burning metal. A merchant named was carried into his clinic by 2 of his workers. He was unconscious, his 4 arms hanging limp, his scales pale and wet with sweat. There was a hole in his chest where something sharp had gone through. "A deal went bad," one of the workers said. He did not sound sad about it. "Fix him or do not fix him, we do not care, but if he dies, someone will blame us." They dropped on the examination table and left without another word. Looked at the wounded. He was one of the merchants who controlled the food supplies on the lower decks. He charged terrible prices and laughed when families could not pay. She had heard stories about him, none of them good. For a moment she thought about letting him die. It would be easy. She could say the wound was too severe, that there was nothing she could do. No one would question her. No one would care. But was a doctor. She had made a promise long ago to help anyone who needed help, even the ones who did not deserve it. She worked for 6 hours. The wound was worse than it looked. The blade had punctured his lung and nicked an artery. Blood was purple and thick, and it seemed to get everywhere. Hands were covered in it by the time she finished. Her back ached. Her eyes burned, but she had done it. Would live. When he woke up the next day, was cleaning her instruments. She was tired but satisfied. Another life saved. That was what mattered. "You are the human," said. His voice was weak but filled with contempt. "The one who wastes medicine on refugees." "I am the doctor who saved your life," replied calmly. "The standard payment for this procedure is 200 credits. Laughed. It was an ugly sound. "I will not pay you," he said. "You are human. Your services are worth nothing. Be grateful I do not report you for practicing medicine above your station." Felt something cold settle in her stomach. I have credentials from the Galactic Medical Corps. The Corps has no authority here. The station council has never recognized you. You are nothing but a soft creature playing doctor in a closet. Sat up slowly, wincing at the pain in his chest. You should thank me for letting you live, human. I could have you thrown out of an airlock and no one would say a word. He walked out of her clinic, and he did not look back. Stood very still for a long time. Her hands were shaking now, though they had been steady during 6 hours of surgery. She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. She wanted to chase after and demand what she was owed. But she did none of those things. She took a deep breath, cleaned the purple blood from her examination table, and prepared for her next patient. Word spread fast on the lower decks. The human doctor had saved a merchant, and he had refused to pay. He had laughed at her. He had threatened her, and nothing had happened to him. Within days, other patients started forgetting to pay. A trader with a broken arm told he would pay her next week, then disappeared onto a departing ship. An engineer with food poisoning said he had left his credits in his quarters, then never came back. The suppliers who sold medical equipment started demanding extra payments. Bribes, they called them, processing fees. Without them, they said, her orders might get lost, her equipment might break, accidents might happen. Then someone cut the water line to her clinic. Discovered it in the morning when she came to open up and found the floor covered in dirty water. Everything was soaked. Some of her medicines were ruined. It would take days to clean up and even longer to replace what she had lost. She was on her hands and knees, trying to save what she could, when Elder appeared in the doorway. Was the matriarch of the den, the oldest and of their group. Her fur was the color of storm clouds, streaked with white around her muzzle. She moved slowly because her joints ached in the station's cold air, but her amber eyes were sharp and missed nothing. "You should leave this place," said. Did not look up. "I cannot leave, I have patients." "Your patients are destroying you. The smell blood. They will not stop until there is nothing left." "Then let them come." His voice was harder than she meant it to be. "I will not run away. I will not abandon the people who need me." Was quiet for a moment. Then she lowered herself slowly to the wet floor and began helping sort through the ruined supplies. "Do you know why my people honor our healers?" the old asked. "No." "Because when our world was dying, the healers were the last to leave. They stayed until the end, treating the sick and the wounded, even when there was no hope. They died so that others might live a few hours longer." His voice was soft. "We do not forget such things. We cannot forget." Stopped sorting and looked at the old matriarch. "I am not dying for anyone." "No, but you are suffering for our children. You have spent your own money on their medicine. You have gone hungry so they could eat. You have made enemies to keep them safe." His paw rested on his shoulder, heavy and warm. "Among my people, there is no debt heavier than the one owed to those who protect our young. I do not want your debt. I just want to help. That is why the debt is so heavy." Amber eyes were very old and very sad. "You do not do this for reward. You do not do it for praise. You do it because you cannot imagine doing otherwise. Such kindness is rare in this galaxy, Dr. Park, more rare than you know." Did not know what to say. She had never thought of herself as kind. She had just been doing her job. The same job she had done on Earth, the same job she would do anywhere. Sick people needed help. She was a doctor. The rest was just details. "We cannot pay you in credits," continued. "We have almost nothing, but there are other currencies in this universe. Older currencies, stronger ones." "What do you mean?" Smiled, showing teeth that were still sharp despite her age. "You will see, little soft paw. When the time comes, you will see." She helped finish cleaning, then left to return to her den. That night called another meeting of the cubs. This time, the oldest cubs from other refugee families on the station were there too. Children with their delicate scales, young with their hard shells, even a few outcasts, cubs whose families had fallen from favor and now lived in the shadows. "The human is in danger," told them. "They are going to destroy her." "What can we do?" asked the child. "We are only cubs, we have no power." "We have numbers," said. "We have ears and eyes everywhere. We have parents who are tired of being afraid." She looked around at all of them, these children of a dozen different species, united by nothing except that they were young and weak and forgotten. "And we have a debt to pay, all of us." The cubs looked at each other. They were scared. They were small. They did not understand how they could possibly stand against the. But they remembered the human doctor who had been kind to them when no one else was. They remembered her gentle hands and her warm smile. They remembered how she had looked at them like they mattered. "Tell us what to do," the child said finally. Smiled, it was not a friendly smile. "First," she said, "we count. We count every child the human has ever treated. We make lists. We find their parents, and then we wait." "Wait for what?" "For the right moment." His amber eyes gleamed in the dim light. "The moment when we show the exactly how much they have to lose." The cubs began their work that very night, and in her ruined clinic had no idea that an army was being built around her, one small paw at a time. The day that came for started like any other day. She woke up early in the small room behind her clinic where she slept. She washed her face with recycled water that tasted like metal. She ate a breakfast of protein paste that had no flavor at all. Then she opened her clinic doors and waited for patients. The first patient was a cub with an ear infection. The second was an old who needed medicine for his joints. The third was a human trader, one of the few on the station, who had cut his hand on a broken container. Normal patients, normal problems, solved them one by one the way she always did. She did not notice the guards gathering in the corridor outside. Commander Vex arrived at midday. He came with 4 guards, all of them armed with the electric staffs that security forces carried. Their scales were dark, almost black, the color of who expected violence. They filled the doorway of small clinic, blocking the light. "Dr. Park," Vex announced. His voice was flat and cold. "You will come with us." Set down the scanner she had been using. Her heart was beating fast, but she kept her face calm. "On what charge?" "You have been accused of practicing medicine without proper authorization from the station council. You have been accused of stealing medical supplies meant for registered facilities. You have been accused of conspiracy against commercial interests. Those charges are lies." "Perhaps," Vex's scales flickered with amusement. "Perhaps not. You will come with us for questioning. If you are innocent, you have nothing to fear." Knew that was not true. She had heard stories about questioning. People went in. Sometimes they did not come out, and even if they did, they were never quite the same. "And if I refused to come?" Vex stepped closer. He was so much larger than her. His shadow fell over her like a dark wave. "You are one human," he said softly, "alone, on a station where your species has no allies, no power, no protection. You have nothing here, Dr. Park. You never did. You were always just a soft creature we allowed to exist because you were useful." He showed his teeth, which were sharp and many. "You are no longer useful." Looked at the guards behind him. She looked at the electric staffs in their hands. She thought about all the patients she had treated, all the lives she had tried to save, all the endless hours she had spent in this cold metal room fighting against a galaxy that did not care. Maybe Vex was right. Maybe she had been foolish to come here. Maybe she should have stayed on Earth, where humans were not considered worthless, where a doctor was respected instead of threatened. She opened her mouth to surrender. What else could she do? And then she heard a sound behind her. It was a soft sound, barely louder than breathing. The sound of small feet on metal floors. The sound of something settling into place. Turned around. Was standing in the back doorway of the clinic. The silver-furred cub walked forward without a word and sat down behind. Her amber eyes were fixed on Commander Vex. Her face showed no fear at all. Then another cub appeared, a golden-furred child named Bora, the one had treated for a cough all those months ago. She sat down next to. Then another and another. They came through the back door one by one, silent as ghosts, cubs with their thick fur and sharp claws. They ranged from tiny toddlers who could barely walk to adolescents nearly as large as herself, 12 of them in total, settling into position behind her like stones being placed in a wall. None of them spoke, none of them looked away from the. His throat felt tight. "Children," she whispered, "what are you doing?" "Standing," said simply. "You need to leave. This is dangerous." Yes still did not look at her. Her eyes remained fixed on Vex. "It is." Commander Vex stared at the cubs with an expression could not read. His scales had gone still, which she had learned was a sign of uncertainty in. "What is this?" he demanded. Cubs said quickly. "Commander, they are just children. They do not understand what is happening. Let me send them away and I will come with you quietly." "No." His voice cut through the air like a blade. She rose to her feet and the other cubs rose with her. They moved together as if they had practiced this moment many times. They had practiced, realized. They had prepared for this. "We know exactly what is happening," continued. Her voice was calm, almost friendly, but there was something underneath it that made the fur on the back of his neck stand up. "You have come to take our doctor. You have come to hurt her because she saved a life and was not paid because she spoke truth to her and did not bow. You think she is weak. You think she is alone." His claws extended. They were not fully grown yet, still too short to be truly dangerous, but they gleamed in the clinic's white light like promises. "You are wrong," she said. Vex recovered his composure. His scales shifted back to their normal dark red. "You are cubs, refugee cubs. You have no power here. We have teeth. You are children playing at being warriors. Your parents will answer for this insult." "Our parents send us." Vex went very still. Smiled, and it was not a nice smile at all. "Did you think we came here on our own, Commander? Did you think 12 cubs sneaked away from their families to play heroes? No, Elder gave us permission. Elder told us exactly what to do and exactly what to say." Behind Vex, one of the guards shifted nervously. His scales had gone pale. "You are bluffing," Vex said. "They are refugees. They have no power, no resources, nothing to threaten us with. They are not alone." Now more cubs appeared. They came from the corridor outside, slipping past the guards before they could stop them. Cubs with their delicate scales, young with their hard shells, even a few small cubs from outcast families who lived in the shadows of the lower decks. They gathered around the cubs, forming a larger group. 30 children now, maybe more, all of them looking at Commander Vex with eyes that held no fear. "Do you know how many children this doctor has treated?" asked. "We counted. We made lists. We are very good at lists." She took a step forward, and Vex actually took a step back. 317 cubs from 8 different species. 317 young ones who are alive right now because this human refused to let them die. Felt tears prick her eyes. She had not counted. She had never thought to count. "Those children have parents," continued. "Those parents talk to each other. They share stories. They remember. And they have been watching this clinic for weeks, Commander, watching and waiting. Do you understand what I am telling you?" Vex's voice was harsh. "You are telling me nothing. Words from cubs mean nothing." "Then look at your communication device." Vex hesitated. Then slowly, he raised his wrist and activated the small screen embedded there. Could not see what was on the screen, but she saw Vex's scales go pale. She saw his eyes widen. She heard his breath catch in his throat. "That is a list," said softly. "A list of every parent whose child has been treated in this clinic. A list of where they work, what systems they maintain, what access they have to life support, to communications, to security." She paused. A list of exactly how much damage they could do if they decided that this station's leadership was no longer worth obeying. The clinic was very quiet. Even the hum of the ventilation system seemed to have gone silent. "You would not dare," Vex whispered. "We are refugees," said. "We have lost everything, our homes, our worlds, our futures. What else do we have to lose?" She looked at the cubs around her, children from a dozen different species, united by nothing except their smallness and their debt. "What else," she asked, "do any of us have to lose?" Commander Vex looked at the list on his screen for a long time. His scales changed color 3 times, first pale with shock, then dark with anger, then pale again as he truly understood what he was seeing. "This is impossible," he said finally. "You could not have organized this. You are just cubs." Tilted her head. "Cubs listen. Cubs watch. Cubs go places that adults cannot go because no one thinks we matter. We have been invisible all our lives, Commander. Did you think we were not paying attention?" Vex looked at, "You planned this. You turned these creatures against us." "I did nothing." His voice was shaking. She was not sure if it was from fear or something else. "I just tried to help them." "She speaks truth," said. "She did not plan anything. She did not ask us to do this. She does not even know the names of most of the cubs she has treated. She just healed them and sent them home." The silver-furred cub showed her teeth. "That is why we are here, Commander. Because she did not ask. Because she expected nothing in return. Because she is the first person in this cold metal place who looked at us like we mattered." One of the guards behind Vex stepped forward. He was younger than the others, and his scales kept flickering with nervous energy. "Commander," he said quietly, "the family on that list, they maintain the air filtration systems for the upper decks. If they stopped working, the council chambers would lose breathable air in 6 hours." Vex turned on him. "I know what the list says." "And the workers? They handle waste disposal for the food production sectors. If they contaminated the supply chain, thousands would get sick." I said I know. The young guard did not back down. "Commander, these are not soldiers. They are not rebels. They are families. Parents who want to protect their children. If we take this doctor, we will be starting a war against every person on this station who has ever loved a sick child." Vex's scales went very dark. For a moment, thought he might hit his own guard. Then the moment passed and Vex turned back to face the cubs. "You think this changes anything?" His voice was a snarl. "You think you can threaten thee and survive? We have controlled this station for 50 years. We have crushed rebellions before. We will crush you too." Did not seem frightened. If anything, she seemed sad. "You still do not understand," she said softly. "We are not rebelling. We are not trying to take power. We have no desire to control anything." She gestured at the cubs around her. "Look at us, Commander. Really look. We are children. Hungry children. Tired children. Children who have been told our whole lives that we do not matter, that we are burdens, that we should be grateful for whatever scraps the strong allow us to have." She stepped forward, and this time Vex did not step back. They stood facing each other, the massive commander and the silver-furred adolescent who barely reached his chest. "Then one day a human came to this station," continued. "A small, soft creature with no claws and no scales and no power at all. And she looked at our sick cubs and she said, 'I will help them.' Not for money, not for favor, just because they were sick and she was a healer." Found that she could not breathe. She had never heard anyone describe her this way. She had never thought of herself as anything special. She had just been doing what doctors did. "Do you know what that meant to us?" asked. "Do you have any idea? In this whole galaxy, in all our years of wandering from station to station, begging for scraps and being turned away, she was the first one who helped without asking for something in return." The other cubs were nodding. Some of the smaller ones had tears in their fur. A child was holding onto a child, the two of them clinging together like siblings. "We are not threatening you," said. "We are telling you a truth. If you take her, if you hurt her, If you do anything to harm the one person who has shown us kindness, then you will see what happens when people have nothing left to lose." "Your parents are cowards," Vex spat. "They would never risk their lives for one human." "Our parents have already lost everything once. Their homes, their worlds, their hope." His voice was very quiet now. "But she gave us something back. She gave our cubs a chance to live. She gave our elders something to believe in. Do you think they would not fight for that? Do you think they would not die for that?" Vex was silent. His guards were silent. The whole station seemed to be holding its breath. "I will tell you what is going to happen," said. "You are going to leave this clinic. You are going to drop these false charges. You are going to tell the station council that Dr. Park is now under the protection of every refugee family on 7. And then you are going to make sure that she has everything she needs to keep doing her work. And if I refuse, then you will find out how many people are willing to die for a woman who is willing to live for them." The silence stretched on. Could hear her own heartbeat. She could hear the breathing of the cubs behind her. She could hear the soft whir of the ventilation system starting up again, as if the station itself was waiting to see what would happen. Finally, Vex spoke. "You have made a powerful enemy today, cub." Nodded. "I know, but we have also shown you something important. We have shown you that the powerless are only powerless when they stand alone." She looked at the children around her, all those small faces from a dozen different species. "We are not alone anymore." Vex turned to his guards. His scales had settled into a dull, angry red, but there was something else beneath the anger, something that looked almost like respect. "We are leaving," he said shortly, "for now." "Commander," one of the guards protested. "I said we are leaving." He walked out of the clinic without looking back. His guards followed, their electric staffs held loosely at their sides. In moments, the doorway was empty. Let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. Her legs felt weak. She wanted to sit down, but she was afraid she might fall if she tried. She whispered, "What did you do?" The silver-furred cub turned to look at her. For the first time since the confrontation began, she looked like what she was, a child. A tired child who had just done something very scary. "We paid our debt," said simply. "Or we started to. I think it will take a long time to finish." The other cubs were relaxing now, their claws retracting, their fur settling down. The smallest ones began to cry, the fear they had been hiding finally coming out. Older cubs gathered them up, holding them close, making soft sounds of comfort. Sank down onto her examination table. She was crying too, she realized. Tears were running down her face and she could not stop them. "You could have died," she said. "All of you. You stood against armed guards for me. You risked everything for me." "Yes," agreed. She came to stand beside, and after a moment she laid her head against the human's shoulder. Her fur was soft and warm. That is what family does. Put her arms around the cub and held her tight. Around them, other children gathered close, pressing against them, forming a warm circle of fur and scales and small bodies. She had come to this station alone. She had thought she would always be alone. She had been wrong. The charges against disappeared within 3 days. No one told her why. No one sent official notice. She simply checked the station records one morning and found that her name had been removed from the accused list. Where there had been accusations of theft and conspiracy, there was now nothing at all. A week later, her clinic was officially recognized by the station council. The announcement came without warning. An administrator appeared at her door with documents that gave her full legal status as a medical provider. Her credentials from the Galactic Medical Corps were now accepted. Her supply requests would be processed through official channels. She was, for the first time since arriving on 7, a real doctor in the eyes of the law. "Why?" she asked the administrator. He did not meet her eyes. "Orders from above. I do not ask questions." "Whose orders?" But he was already gone. Changes came quickly after that. Her broken water line was repaired by a maintenance crew that refused to take payment. Her ruined medicines were replaced by anonymous donations left at her door. An engineer appeared one day and upgraded her climate control system, saying only that her clinic was too cold for cubs to be comfortable. The merchants who had refused to pay their debts began paying, not all of them, but enough. The one who had started all the trouble sent 200 credits along with a note that said nothing except his name, threw the note away. She kept the credits. Her patients needed medicine more than she needed pride. Patients came more often now. Not just refugees, but station workers, traders passing through, even a few who slipped in after dark and asked her to keep their visits quiet. Word had spread about the human doctor in the lower decks. Word about what her patients had done for her and what she had done for them. The cubs still came most often. They played in her waiting area while their parents worked. They helped her clean when the clinic got dirty. They brought her food that their families had cooked, dishes from a dozen different worlds that she had never tasted before. One evening, Elder came to visit. She moved more slowly than before, her joints aching in the station's damp air, but her amber eyes were bright. "You built something," said, looking around the clinic. "You did not mean to, you were simply being what humans are, stubborn, compassionate, blind to your own mortality." She gave a low, rumbling laugh. "But you built something nonetheless." Was organizing medicine containers. She did not stop working as she replied, "I just treated patients." "You treated children, on a station where children are considered burdens, in a galaxy where the weak are expected to die quietly so the strong do not have to feel guilty." Settled herself on a bench with a soft grunt of effort. "You made yourself essential, not through power or wealth, but through kindness. And now you have 300 families who would burn this station to the deck plates if anyone tried to harm you." Set down the container she was holding. "I do not want anyone to burn anything for me." "No," his voice was soft. "You would not, that is why they would do it." A noise came from the corridor. Looked up to see chasing one of the younger cubs past her doorway. Both of them were purring with laughter, their tails streaming behind them. They looked like ordinary children, happy children, nothing like the fierce young warriors who had faced down armed guards just weeks ago. "I still do not understand," said. "I am not one of you, I am human. I do not even look like you." "Does that matter?" "I do not know, does it?" Was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was very gentle. "Among my people, family is not about blood. It is not about fur or claws or which world you came from. Family is about choice. About saying, this one is mine and I will protect them no matter what." She paused. "The cubs chose you, Dr. Park. They watched you for months. They saw how you treated them when no one was looking. They saw you give away food you needed for yourself. They saw you work until you were too tired to stand because a child was suffering and you could not bear to stop." Remembered those nights. The endless nights when she had nothing left but still kept going, because somewhere in her clinic a small creature was in pain and she was the only one who could help. "They did not choose you because you are perfect," continued. "They chose you because you are kind, because you see them as people when the rest of the galaxy sees them as nothing, because you gave them something they had never had before." "What did I give them?" "Hope." The word hung in the air between them, such a small word, such a heavy thing. "Before you came," said, "our cubs believed they would never matter. They believed the galaxy was cold and cruel and there was nothing they could do about it. Then you showed them that one person, even a small and soft and powerless person, can choose to be kind. You showed them that kindness can be stronger than cruelty, that love can be stronger than fear." Her amber eyes gleamed. "You gave them a reason to believe in something, Dr. Park, that is worth more than all the credits in the galaxy." Felt tears burning in her eyes. She blinked them away quickly, but had already seen. "You are allowed to cry," the old said gently. "Among my people, tears are not weakness. They are proof that we can still feel something. They are proof that we are still alive." The tears came then. Could not stop them. She sat down on the floor of her clinic and cried while moved to sit beside her, warm and solid and present. She cried for all the patients she had treated and the ones she had lost. She cried for the home she had left behind and the life she had built in this cold metal place. She cried for the cubs who had stood behind her like a wall and the debt she could never repay. When the tears finally stopped, she found that she was surrounded by children. They had come in quietly while she was crying, slipping through doors and settling around her in a circle. Cubs and cubs and cubs, and even a few young who had learned to see past their species' prejudice. Was there too, pressed against the side? "Are you okay?" the silver-furred cub asked. Laughed. It was a wet, shaky sound, but it was real. "I think so. I think I am better than okay." Good, laid her head on shoulder. "Because we still have work to do. There are more sick cubs in Sector 4, and I heard there is a refugee ship coming in tomorrow with lots of families who need help." More work, shook her head, but she was smiling. "It never ends." "No," agreed. "It never does. That is what it means to care about something, Dr. Park. The work never ends because there is always someone who needs help." She paused. "But you do not have to do it alone anymore." Looked at the children around her. These strange, wonderful children who had become her family without her even noticing. She looked at the wise old matriarch who had seen her value when she could not see it herself. She looked at the fierce young cub who had stood against an army for her and would do it again in a heartbeat. She was not alone. She would never be alone again. "Okay," she said, and her voice was steady now. "Let us get back to work." She rose to her feet and the cubs rose with her. Together, they began preparing the clinic for the next day. There would be new patients, new problems, new challenges to face. But there would also be warmth. There would be laughter. There would be small paws helping her and small voices calling her soft paw and small bodies pressed against her when the work was done. There would be family. And that, thought as she watched the cubs organize her supply shelves with cheerful chaos, made all the difference in the galaxy. Outside the clinic window, stars burned in the endless darkness of space, cold and distant and uncaring, the way the universe had always been. But here, in this small room on a forgotten station, something warm had taken root, something that the galaxy's indifference could not destroy. A human had chosen to be kind, and the children had chosen to love her for it. That was enough. That would always be enough.